Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me. Today is Saturday and it's the last Saturday of January, which means this is the last reading, or I guess live readings that we're doing for the month of January. So those of you guys who are members, thank you for joining me. Those of you guys who are coming back on to my channel, you're checking it out, you want to watch the live readings, welcome. We alternate every other Saturday. We do live readings, which are either tarot or astrology. Tonight we are doing astrology, so we're doing live readings. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to all of my memberships and my supporters, those of you guys who are level 2 and 3. Thank you so very much. People like Dionna, Paula, Catherine, Hera, Nancy, Phoenix, Jessica Martinez, Angeli, Emma, and Susan Wexler. Thank you guys. I think we got a couple people left also for the month. So if you're level 3 and you haven't gotten your reading in, looks like that's going to be Dionna. I think Dionna is the only one we haven't had from level 3. Looks like we got pretty much everybody else in. But if I'm missing you, let me know. Also, you're welcome to join if you want to join the memberships. Those of you guys who just want to get in and get a reading, totally cool too. Check out the QR code somewhere over here. I never know if it's down here or up here, but it's down here. You can scan that. It's going to take you directly to my PayPal link. So that way, if you want to schedule a reading, you can. For me to look at your chart, I'm going to need a couple pieces of information. I'm going to need your birth time, exact date and year, as well as the location for me to be able to pull up your chart. So we're charging $40 donation for any question in regards to an aspect in your natal chart, or if you have any questions specifically about transits, we can do that too. Also, I'm offering Synastry questions. So if you want to ask questions about Synastry, $65, ask whatever you'd like. If you have both birth information and time, awesome. If not, it's okay. We can definitely look at your exact birth chart and another person's, especially if you're asking questions about compatibility or anything like that. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes just to let everybody kind of get into the chat. How's everybody doing? Venus went direct today. Yay! I'm still not a fan of this Mercury-Pluto conjunction. It's going to hang around for a little while, probably until the better part of like closer to March, to be honest with you. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm happy just to have Venus direct. Hey, Dionna. All right, cool. So I've got you because you're level 3. That's the perk of being a level 3. If you are level 3, you're going to get one reading from me once a month during my live shows, either tarot or astrology, your call, whatever works for you. So go ahead and give me your exact time, date, and location, and let me know what your question is. Also, thank you, moderator. If your name differs on PayPal from your YouTube name, please just let me know, because we have names come in and I don't always know who's who. In the memo is where you can give me your question, time, date, and also location of birth. If you are not born in America, please spell out the month and make sure that you include the exact AM or PM hour of your birth so I can take a look at your chart. We've got Stephanie who's in the queue, so that's cool. Stephanie, I saw you in here. Let me know what your question is. And we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Dionna. I'm going to put your info in. Thank you for joining the memberships. We appreciate your support. January 2nd, 78. And it looks like that was at 7:55 p.m. in Inglewood. So let's go ahead and pull up your chart. Okay, Leo rising, sun in Capricorn, and also moon in Libra. Work is a disaster. Ready to change path. Suggestions? Romantic life is on the up and up. I guess that's the beauty of having Venus going direct on your sun, huh? Technically, Venus went direct at 11 degrees, but it's within a 1 degree orb. The truth is like, I can't imagine things being better than that. Here's the other thing. Venus does rule your 10th house of career. So considering the fact that you have your career ruler that's been going retrograde, it's coming into conjunction with your sun. It's asking you, are you in love with your job? Does it feel creative enough? Are you passionate about what you're doing? Are you enjoying what you're doing? I would imagine that when you have like a Moon Mars transit on your sun, that may show you which way this work stuff is gonna fall. Let me put the transits up here. Sorry, give me a second. There we go. And I know that those transits are coming actually. We've had this in the last like 24 hours. So, you know, Moon's in Capricorn's been conjunct Venus and Mars. Oh my gosh, today's energy has been so much better just with the Moon going into Capricorn, which you would never imagine. But if you have personal planets like a Sun or even a Venus in Capricorn, this particular lunar transit, the last 24 hours just feels like everything's kind of lightening up. Yes, love life is getting better. However, love life is also teaching you where it makes sense to invest your time and your energy in what makes you feel happy or what makes you feel joy, right? Fifth house can also be self-employment. So I'm not going to like send you on a wild goose chase, but I think it's fascinating that both the Sun and Venus reside in your fifth house, and that is your chart ruler and your 10th house ruler. So I'm wondering where you're feeling more inspired, where it's encouraging you to think more about branching out business-wise and other things. It can almost be like hobbies and side hustles that you can start working on that can kind of get things moving and shaking. So you're putting a lot of emphasis and being like, yes, I want to build this out. Part of the reason why you're not so wild about what's been going on at work also is that Mercury has been going retrograde in your 6th house of work, schedule, coworkers. It's almost like people are sick, they're not showing up, they're calling in late. Maybe you don't feel like you have support. All of this has been squaring your natal moon, Pluto conjunction. So it's stressful communicating with other people and getting the job done. So I kind of get the impression that it's a matter of when you decide you want to make the cut. You know, I would never recommend like quitting a job during a Mercury retrograde. That's just my 2 cents because I feel like there can be some remorse, but definitely I think maybe when like Mars shows up and comes into conjunction with Pluto, there is this kind of shift revolving around the way that you look at work and what it means to actually be productive. Big turning point for both Leo rising and Capricorns in general when it comes to just figuring out what they value and what does and does not work for them. I would say be really careful because all of these conjunctions that are going to start happening in your 6th house, like when Mars gets there, makes me feel like it's the setup for you to either start realizing that the change needs to come sooner than you're capable of making, and or it being a situation where you start strategizing and planning and looking at other tools, other training, because it's squaring Uranus in your 9th, other classes or things like that that you need to do to be able to kind of give you like the next step, right? Because I see the 9th house is like education. It's interesting that Uranus is in your 9th house as well. If this was whole sign, it would be a square between Saturn in your 7th and Uranus in your 10th. So it's like a lot of like not getting along with people, having issues with superiors or bosses at work, feeling like you guys are just not kind of in sync. I would recommend to start looking for something new the second half of February when Mars and Venus and Pluto are all starting to align and it's all coming into a trine with the North Node in your 10th house. So it's like you're making the time to go on job interviews. You're making the time to regularly look for other positions where you can be of service and you can feel like you can get more done. And I think that's going to be coming up a lot the second half of February. I would imagine that the next wave is going to be when the nodes square in on your natal Saturn. And if you feel like you really can't push through come about end of March going into April, that's another turning point, especially when Venus comes into conjunction with Saturn and Mars. I feel like the closer that we're getting to the end of March going into April, the more that the pressure is kind of building. Not to mention the fact that in the spring, you're going to have a new moon eclipse, and that's going to be in the sign of Taurus, and it's going to be at 12 degrees. So it's conjunct your midheaven, And that's going to be taking place right around the end of April, so right around April 30th. New moon eclipse conjunct the midheaven within a degree seems to be like an indication that that can be the turning point, you know, because then in the next month we're going to have a Mercury retrograde. So if you're still feeling the same way, I feel like actually quitting, I would recommend April going into May, because the retrograde is going to conjunct the sun. You're going to have like this epiphany and you're going to realize like, oh, I don't have to work so hard anymore, or I need to work on my passion, right? Your midheaven is in Taurus, so you really want to look to your Venus sign for what makes you happiest. Venus in Capricorn in the 5th house likes hobbies and things that involve sometimes antiques, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's jewelry, reselling things, making things, anything relating also to sales, because Venus rules your 3rd. So I think of like, is there an opportunity for you to start an online business? Get the ball rolling, you start building towards that. So that way you kind of do that for a couple of months before you segue, and then you make the decision to reevaluate in May. That's like, hey, can I take the next step? You know what I'm saying? Yet bosses. Okay, 2-week half of February and my Uranus opposition. Yeah, you know, I mean, I have not had my Uranus opposition, so I can't speak to this, but I can tell you that I'm having similar oppositions right now with Uranus in opposition to my Pluto. Kind of similar if you have a Scorpio Uranus. Uranus opposition is like now or never, right? So I think it's interesting that Uranus is going to make the opposition. You're moving away from like all of this Uranian stuff in your home life where you have needed a lot of independence, you've needed a lot of freedom at home. There's been some hesitation with settling down or partnering up and living with somebody. And maybe you've just been a little bit more free when it comes to your home base. So when Uranus shifts to your 10th house and it's on your midheaven, believe it or not, it's going to have an adverse reaction, because Taurus is about stability. It's referencing Venus. There is some aspect of this not just about you settling into making decisions with your career or kind of approaching freedom in your professional sphere by doing something creative or something that's going to involve the arts. But it's at a 15. So I think of, it's a Gemini degree. If I remember correctly, don't you make journals and things? Is that correct? Like there's like journals and other things that you've made. I don't remember. But I feel like that's the time to start being like, okay, I'm going to try to launch this stuff. It can also be books with affirmations. It can be things involving flowers, Bach essences, poetry, anything relating to art, digital art, things like that. I would say, like, do you have an interest in wanting to do like more courses or classes online that would teach you more about graphic arts and design, so you can kind of do more of that if that's something that interests you? But on the flip side, Venus rules your 10th house and it's in the 5th. So it's about how you're identifying. Are you identifying as a creative? Are you identifying as an artist? Are you identifying as a girlfriend, a wife, right? So all of this kind of like static, nomadic, kind of not so sure about settling into relationships and having people in my space, the Uranus opposition is going to have you going, surprise, I'm settling down. I'm feeling a little bit more creative. I'm willing to have more stability in my career. I'm looking also, because Uranus rules your 7th house, where maybe one of the more rebellious things that you do is you start crafting, making things, and also you get into a relationship or you bring in a partnership, and that partner is like really all about helping you and assisting you when it comes to your career. If Uranus rules your 7th house and it's in your 10th, changes in your career also lead to changes in your relationships and your partnerships. So it's not limited to romantic. It can be that you partner with friends and other people for business ventures. So that's something else I would think about. I'm really loving you doing jewelry. I think that's so wonderful for Venus in the 5th, especially stuff that you design or that you repurpose. Venus in Capricorn, like stuff that's like traditional. So I wonder, do you have an interest in like learning more about not just making jewelry, but how you can repurpose jewelry? Like, let's say, you know, you open it up and you make it possible for people to bring you stones or other pieces that they want to rework in some way, right? Venus in Capricorn. Heirlooms, things that are traditional, things that might be paying kind of homage to older relatives in the family. Just an idea. But I definitely feel like your Uranus opposition is pretty fucking wild, because it includes a Saturn square. So it's almost like you're having to do your Saturn work before you really go deeper into doing your 10th house stuff. So it's like actually partnerships, friendships, collaborating with other people. That's all really important for you to better integrate making these changes. And I've said this before, the 7th house isn't all just about marriage and rainbows and hugs and kisses. The 7th house, especially Aquarius, is sometimes like telling somebody what's up. And you're going to be very prone to having conflict with some bosses and stuff. And I think that maybe that's actually coming in because it's pushing you to go, actually, this doesn't work for me. So the harder segue, making those real shifts, I think are going to come in the spring, but you want to use all of this friction as the momentum to push outward, right? Especially when you think of like the fixed signs, because I know you're Capricorn and you have a lot of cardinal in your chart, but your angles are actually in fixed signs. So when I see fixed squares, there's friction and there's somebody in your life that pushes you and goes, I'm going to put so much pressure on you until you either snap or you leave or you start something new or you commit. And there's a lot of reluctance. Even if you don't do this in April, May, I've told a lot of my clients with fixed placements, kind of like the jump off is going to be happening at the end of July, beginning of August, when the North Node meets with Uranus. What does that mean for you? That you're rebelling against your old identity, that you're rebelling against bosses, that you're really having a difficult time, not having freedom. Maybe you want to make some kind of Uranian jewelry, right, Taurus? So maybe do you start like making pieces for particular signs? Do you work with certain stones that are going to help almost be like tailored specifically to maybe people who are going through transits? That's something else that I would think about. So you can like set something up like on an Etsy, or maybe you can do consultations where you talk to people and then you get their sun, moon, or their rising, or they're going through a particular transit, and you go and you create jewelry and you tell them you wear this stone and you wear it on this part of your body because it's connected to this body part or this planet, whatever. Kind of like Vedic-esque, but Taurus is going to fixate on stones, precious metals, jewelry, necklaces, because it's stuff that you wear around the neck. And I have a feeling that when the North Node, this is down the road, when the North Node is getting closer to the early degrees of Taurus with Jupiter, you may opt to do some like finer training where maybe you learn more about fine jewelry, and that's going to be like in the spring of 23, or maybe you start teaching other people how to do it in some way. So there's more coming. So if maybe you want to try to do this for a year and then you finally really segue to teaching people, or you decide, hey, I'm going to go and work with a jeweler or a jewelry school and really learn how to, you know, cut stones and do all these other things, you'll start doing that. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Definitely the two signs that have been getting hit the hardest recently are Leo risings, Cancer risings, Capricorns, you know, so you're kind of hitting a little bit of these across the board. But I got to tell you, Venus going direct on your sun is like, you're realizing what you're really passionate about. So whatever this change that's kind of happened and gone on with your romantic relationships, super awesome, because I feel like it's going to inspire you to be like, and I want to do more. And it's really important that you have a partner, or you have some kind of like romantic influence, or somebody who is inspiring you and encouraging you. I think Saturn in your 5th house is somebody who's like saying to you, you know, make the time, quit your job, I support you, I'll help you, like whatever. Like you need people who are going to be in your corner like that too, okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me know. Let me know when you put that jewelry out. That's exciting. You're so welcome. Stephanie, thank you for being patient. We've got you here May 15th, 1982. This is going to be a fixed sign kind of evening, isn't it, guys? Fixed signs are getting their butt kicked already. The nodes just changed. May 15th, 1982. And that was at 10:21 a.m. And that was in Elmhurst, Illinois. So let's segue and pull that up and get your question up. All All of my major placements. General for the year. My friend tells me my chart is lit up like a Christmas tree and it has me nervous. Also Leo rising. But you're coming out of the squares though with your ascendant, and there aren't any squares to your midheaven. So yes, it's lit up, but actually you're kind of through the thick of it. Probably the bigger, well, let's start with this. So your birthday is going to be in May and you're going to be 40. So you're 39 right now. Just want to look at your annual perfections really quick. So you're in a 4th house year until your birthday, and then you will become your 5th house year. So 4th house is going to put emphasis on whole sign Scorpio, which would be Pluto or Mars. So kind of some similar stuff's going on. You've got conjunctions in your 6th house, Pluto. To me, that's like more cleaning up your emotions, cleaning up your house, getting things organized, getting all that situated. You are one of those people who is kind of getting hit with 2 bigger transits. So one is Saturn conjuncting your moon. Moon rules your natal 12th house. So that tells me there can be some challenges in regards to relationships with female relatives and a lot of like mental or emotional stress. Sometimes the 7th house moon represents your maternal grandmother. Sometimes one of your grandmothers, it depends. So Saturn conjuncting that is going to represent like challenges with her health. Sometimes it can be dementia if she's still alive. If not, it can be your mother. And just stress or anxiety revolving around relationships. And sometimes people can get a little anxious and they need space and they'll take a step back when Saturn conjuncts your moon. Vedic astrology, I'm not a Vedic astrologer, but I've studied Vedic, says that when Saturn is coming into conjunction with your moon, they call it the Sati Santi, 7 years of Saturn. So it's like the 2 years before, the 2 years of, the 2 years after. Saturn's conjunct your moon, you deal with karmic stuff. For you, you can get very spiritual. It'll be really great for you to either have like an astrologer that you talk to because your 7th house is your astrologer, or it can be like a therapist. It can be somebody who just helps you through any emotional turmoil or stress. Breath work is really helpful for you because you got all these trines to planets in Libra, and you're just going to go through some karmic stuff in regards to relationships. My mom has lots of mental health issues. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that, unfortunately, going on for the next year, partially because Saturn's going to conjunct the moon, so she has to deal with that. And actually the stress of that going on, it can actually affect you health-wise and digestionally because Saturn rules your natal 6th. There can be a sense of you just being really stressed out and worried about her. If you're in a relationship, that stress can affect the relationship, so you want to watch for that. Minimalizing red meat, like not eating a lot of red meat and just being really mindful of what you're putting in your stomach and your diet, and practicing yoga. You're going to have lower moods. So when Saturn is conjunct your moon, you can kind of feel a little bit depressed, or in turn, it can be that your mom feels that way, or romantic partners can suffer from depression. So the conjunction is actually going to be taking place the strongest right around mid-February through March, and then it's going to pass your moon, and then it's going to ease up a little bit. The challenge is that the nodes are going to square in on Saturn on your moon. So it's basically saying you as well. Also, you need to release and let go of stress and practice detachment from your mom's issues. Not me saying don't care. It's me saying don't absorb it, right? And don't allow it to affect your relationships. And if partners are having those issues as well, there can be addiction issues or issues because Saturn rules the 6th. So there's like, there can be problems with like bad habits. There can be problems with overworking. There can be problems with addiction. It really depends. Usually the moon in Aquarius is just kind of like a little bit, like it needs its freedom. It needs to be weird. On the flip side, you've got the North Node on your sun, and technically that's in your 11th house of goals and friends. So it's like you want to lean on your friendships. You want to find friends that are going to be solid and stable and reliable. You want to be joining groups and associations that are going to teach you about Taurus things, how to get grounded, how to have support, maybe joining a community garden, learning more about gardening, organic foods, cooking foods, things like that to help you deal with some of this stuff. And then you're going to have eclipses that are also still kind of impacting you in April, May. What we've seen in all of 2021 is Saturn in Aquarius has been squaring Uranus and Taurus. So Saturn wants us to commit, deal with karma, buckle down. Uranus says, fuck that, we want freedom. So in a way that those freedom shifts start really coming for you in the spring. And, into the next 2 years, Uranus will come into conjunction with your sun. And I think that's going to send you into like a totally different kind of friend group. But for right now, it's a 4th house year. So up until May, 4th house is really dealing with what's going on with your roots, your home, your family, emotions. And I feel like breath work, communicating, being, clear with boundaries, not necessarily like staying at your mom's house, not having your mom at your house. I know that sounds shitty, but whatever. When Saturn's on your moon and you're a 7th house moon, that's the truth. Believe it or not, like my astrologer told me a really long time ago, I'm a 7th house moon too, because the 7th house is open enemies that, believe it or not, like issues with the mother can relate to that emotional connection, those emotional ties actually being quite negative for you in some situations. And if you don't cut that, then in relationships, you'll go through some of the same like karmic patterns with partners. So I would say, love her, connect with her, be with her from afar. If she can't deal with some of those matters, if she's not getting help, you need support from groups, you need support from other people to move through that. If this were whole sign, and I'm not a whole sign reader, but I can see where the eclipses in Taurus are still going to be kind of peppered into your 10th house of career. And in the next year, Jupiter is going to go into Aries, and it'll be more so next year. So actually, just lots of changes with your career and the way that you're asserting yourself and your authority and feeling like you can express yourself better. Thank you very much, guys. I'll get to you in the order of the booking, so I'll check it in just a second. She's a religious extremist and she pressures me. Moon is in a slight square to Jupiter, so that can be religious kind of extremism. But the moon is in a stronger square to your sun and also Chiron. And yeah, spirituality, religion can be the 12th house, so the moon, I could see that. But the truth is like, just a heads up, let's say you don't deal with mom, let's say you keep her at a distance, you don't work through some of the issues. Just be mindful that you can bring this in through relationships and partnerships. So romantic relationships or friends, you can see similar kind of behavior going on. The moon in Aquarius, and really anything from the 4th to the 9th house is other people. So it's like, I can see a lot of this is your family, or it'll be your friends or your partners that are also going to be kind of stirring the pot a little bit. One thing at a time though, considering that you're having Saturn, on your moon, and that's still very kind of 4th house vibes. I think as long as you can get through some of these transits, like, let's see, it's all affecting Mars. So by the time you get to the other side of the end of March, beginning of April, things are going to ease up a little bit. It will be a little tense until then, okay? One other thing is Jupiter and Chiron are going to align on your Venus. And to me, that says that home and relationship matters and things like that are actually going to lighten up. Like, I feel like traveling is really good for you. I feel like possibly looking at healing ancestral patterning, possibly looking at writing books, taking courses, learning, going on trips. All of these things are going to be really helpful for you. But yeah, the two things I would look at are going to be the North Node transit your natal sun in the 11th house and Saturn transit your moon in the 7th. But even though those are some difficult transits, they're all going to trine your Pluto. So you have the opportunity to just really cut to the core of like not wanting to deal with toxic family stuff anymore. Can definitely be a good time, especially around your birthday, because the eclipses are going to be so close to your sun. Maybe to consider like getting like a solar return reading. So finding an astrologer who does those readings or can do like an annual forecast, because you are going to be having such big transits right around your birthday. It's going to be very, very impactful because you have eclipses that are very close to your sun. I know there was one that was in November. You got another one that's coming also in April going into May. Hopefully that was helpful. Hi guys, thanks for joining me. Nice to see you. Hey Stephanie, if you forgot to put it in the memo, no worries, just put it in there. I need your time, date, location of birth, and then your question. So we're doing live readings. You guys can check out the QR code if you want to get on the queue. Let me see who else I've got up in the PayPal. Yeah, and Mercury's conjunct Pluto right now, so it's just such a good time for a reading. Okay, cool. We got a number of people here. So I've got Brandon, Lightworkers Enterprise, Susan, Teresa, and then Stephanie in that order. So thanks for your patience. So we're going to take Brandon and then Lightworker Enterprise. Nancy, you're on deck. Nice to see you, Nancy. All right, Brandon, let's see what you got going on here. June 3rd, 97. Uh, 3:55 a.m. And that was in Columbus, Georgia. Okay, so you say major things you can foresee for me this year. Anything else you notice in my chart? Hey, Rome. Thank you. Appreciate it. I will add you into the queue. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I'll put your info in. Got a couple people ahead of you, but I'll be with you soon. All right, Brandon, let's see what you got going on. Major themes for this next year. Okay, so probably the biggest place my eyes go to is just the gangbusters of planets that are in your 10th house right now. Those of you guys who are looking at this and you're like, what the hell is this? The natal chart's on the inside, the transits are on the outside. So it looks like he is in Aries rising, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Taurus. Well, I say the 10th house because it's all squaring your ascendant, and now Mars, your chart ruler, is about to kind of come into the mix. And it's all going to align with Pluto, which is conjunct your natal Neptune. It's almost like a breakdown before there's a breakthrough in regards to your career goals or challenges with issues of authority figures. It can be apparent, but you know, more specifically, it looks to me like career stuff and where you're navigating and what direction you're going in when it comes to your career, because that Pluto-Neptune conjunction is a big one. You've also got Saturn coming in conjunction with your Jupiter. So are you planning on going back to school? Are you redirecting your life in terms of wanting to work for nonprofits? Are you going into psychoanalysis stuff? Are you doing a graduate degree? Are you going to school for medical? How's that playing out? But yeah, Mars coming into that conjunction is a big one. And anytime you have planets at 29 degrees, they're very karmic. So it represents being very psychic and very intuitive, but also it's about getting the heart of the matter. So Neptune in the 10th house, ruler of the 12th, tells me that the breakdown and the breakthrough is about you doing more meaningful work. And you may either go back to school or you need a period of time of like reflection and checking in with, you know, where do I want to work? Sometimes I see people go, I want to go and do the Peace Corps in another country, Neptune 12th house. Sometimes I see people get really religious and they realize they want to go down the path of being some kind of like religious or even nonprofit worker of some kind. But the fact that you have a Venus retrograde in your 10th, the fact that Pluto, Mars, and Venus are all going to align on top of your Neptune is really big. This is March 2nd through more or less, like, let's say the 10th of March. And that's going to be interesting because it's a breakdown, like I said, and then a breakthrough for your career. Your chart reminds me a lot of somebody else's who's on here quite a bit. I think it's Kurt. I don't know if you've seen some of those other videos, but he's got some similar placements. Also, Jupiter and Neptune going into your 12th house, and it's coming into conjunction with your South Node. Mental health stuff, spiritual stuff, stuff relating to like not isolating. Notice that your North Node in Virgo is in the 6th house conjunct Mars. So it's putting this emphasis in like building towards a career that's like helping people, protecting people, taking care of people, working in hospitality, working in wellness, working in healing. And then now you've also got eclipses and conjunctions to your moon. So lots of changes with like your career direction and where you're living. You know, Uranus conjunct your moon, buckle up. That's a fun transit. What that's going to do basically, it's going to totally just put your intuition on overdrive, especially because you're a first house moon. But you're going to start kind of feeling like it's time for you to have more freedom in your living situations and your emotions, and maybe opting to like move to a place that's going to be either more affordable or somewhere that you can kind of do work closer to home, or there's some kind of combination between work and living. So I would really recommend looking at, you know, Uranus coming into conjunction with your moon Mercury. Obviously, you're going to become really interested in astrology, especially from like the standpoint of like astrology to better understand health and wellness, or just like medical astrology. And you may become very fixated also on doing some kind of work that revolves around working with groups and healing through traumas. So it can be like addiction, it could be abuse, something like that is kind of going on. Yep, you're moving pretty soon. As Uranus goes back and forth on your moon, it may represent a couple of moves, to be honest with you, just a heads up, especially because it's going to conjunct your moon, which rules your 4th house, and it's going to square Jupiter. So you're going to move, and then you're going to have other people that are like, hey, we've got a place over here. Why don't you come, you know, stay with us over here? So watch for that, especially in like April, May. And then again, when the eclipses are happening in the fall, that can be another time. But Mars transits are very important for you. So those ones at the beginning of March are important. Equally, when Mars and Venus are conjunct your Jupiter, I don't know if you're going to like sign up for a new program or join a group. That'll be the end of March, making new friends who are really your people. And then I'm also interested when Mars comes into conjunction with Neptune, healing centers, working through something relating to like psychological stuff, past life stuff, healing. You might get invited to go and spend time at a retreat somewhere tropical, or like in another city or in another country. And I have a feeling you're going to get really interested in like past life stuff. I don't know if that's something that interests you, but with like Neptune and Jupiter in your 12th house, you're going to think a lot about meditation and like energy healing and like plant medicine and astral traveling and like past lives. Pick up the book Many Lives, Many Masters. It's a book that I always recommend to all of my clients and some of my students when they start kind of waking up, because believe it or not, it has nothing to do with astrology. It has more to do with past lives and how past life karma affects us and really plays out in this lifetime. And another book that would be great is Journey of Souls. So it talks about reincarnation and why we come back with certain people, and that we just keep coming back here and we connect with certain souls because they're here to help us work through karma. And I feel like that's right up your alley. I wonder if I'm basically doing a retreat with yeah, exactly. Yes. Do all of those things. Those are very Neptune things. But I think you're going to have a lot of like past life clearing and healing. And being that you have Neptune in your 10th house, do you have an interest in like learning about past life regression or hypnotism? Does that interest you at all? Because I'm looking at like your natal Mars North Node trine Neptune. And I wonder if there's something there, you know, doing some kind of work where you're maybe doing past life regression, or you're doing hypnotism, or you're doing something like that, and working with people in that sense. That could be a wonderful option for you. I know that, you know, I'm not saying this to just say this, but like in a way, you're still really young, and it's going to take you probably up until the better part of closer to your Saturn's return to figure a lot of this stuff out, because Saturn rules your natal 10th house of career, and it's located on your ascendant, technically in your 12th. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it's there, you know, like astrology is like a locker combination, right? Sometimes you have to turn it one way and it clicks, you turn it another way and it clicks, turn it again, and then it unlocks. Your chart has been in an unlocking phase pretty much the last 2 years with Saturn conjuncting your Neptune. getting you to wake up, spiritually waking up, thinking about what you want to do, how you want to help people. The second unlocking phase is happening when Jupiter and Neptune hit on your south node, and you're going to bring in all this yummy karma from past lives. But you don't want to get lost in the super hippy dippy spiritual drinking the Kool-Aid side of it. Remember, your north node and your Mars are in Virgo, so it's like make it practical. So it's like, it's great to go and do all the retreats and all that stuff, have that experience, but by the same token, you want practical tools and knowledge and experience that you can use to actually help people. So you might get kind of lost in it for a little bit. If you do, your Saturn return is going to definitely reroute you, but being that Saturn's in your natal 12th, that may be when you really fully come into your career, or maybe when you really fully decide that, you know what, I am going to go and do this work because there is a connection between the spiritual and the health and the wellness, and I can do both. You could equally also be a trainer. You could be a fitness guru. You could be a dietitian. You could work with herbs. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do with this. Journey of Souls. That's the book. Journey of Souls. But you got some cool stuff going on. Saturn's getting ready to conjunct your Jupiter, so you're definitely going to meet some very knowledgeable people that are going to help you in the experience of getting on your way to your Saturn return. I love that Saturn conjunct your Jupiter is sextiling your natal Saturn. So obviously you're meeting people who are going to help you really kind of round out your philosophy when it comes to your career. And just be, you know, be prepared, pack and like live in a lighter lifestyle. So as Uranus conjuncts your moon, if you need to bop around a bit, you can. I know the Taurus moons really like to have their comforts. You like your comfort zone, your comfortable blankets, your this, your that, all of that, but you're learning to free yourself from that with Uranus on your moon, freeing yourself from having to live in one place, freeing yourself from materialism, and you're really getting ready to embrace your Mercury moon square Jupiter. So willing to give up all the creature comforts in order to have freedom and to kind of surround yourself with like-minded people. So sounds like you're in like a really cool phase. Hopefully that's helpful. You need any follow-ups with me or anything, let me know. Definitely, you can definitely use it in the spring. You might want to circle back and let us know what happens. When Uranus was on my moon, it was a pretty interesting period of my life, I gotta tell you. That's when I started working with Astrology. All right, cool. So let's get back to my list here. Okay, we got Nancy. Sorry guys, you hear my doggy snoring. 9583. And that was at 7:45 p.m. in Houston. He always wants to make an appearance, but he falls asleep. All right, so let's take a look here and see what is going on for you, Nancy. Nancy says, oh, it's another person. He was divorced. He was asking me if I wanted children, as he could possibly be interested in having more. 9/23/77. Okay, cool. Divorced in 2021, asking if I wanted children. Okay, so why is this coming up for you, Nancy? Hey, Wendy, what's going on? So children is ruled by your natal 5th house, Nancy, and that's the moon. And this guy's got Saturn conjunct your Venus and your moon. So of course he's going to be like, hey, what's up? What are you thinking about? What are you feeling? Right? Also, P.S. Now Saturn is coming into an opposition with your moon, and it's coming into an opposition with your Venus. So I'm not telling you you should or you shouldn't have kids. That's your decision. Astrologers don't make those decisions for you guys. Timing we can predict, but that's about it. I will say for Virgos that you're experiencing a Mercury retrograde and a Venus retrograde in your 5th house of dating, lovers, and children. Okay, so some guy comes back, he's divorced, he's like, hey, do you see yourself having any more children? That's the Mercury-Venus retrograde. It's 5 houses away from your natal sun. So technically that is in your 11th house. So it's somebody saying to you, are children a goal of yours, right? And it makes perfect sense that he would be saying that to you because his Saturn's on your Venus moon. Also, you're coming into Saturn this year, making an opposition with your moon and with your Venus. And it's going to be squared by the nodes. So this is not an age thing, it's an astrology thing. When Saturn opposes your 5th house ruler, you start going, why have I put off having children for the last 7, 14, 21, 28 years? I find it fascinating that he's asking you this because I think he's one of the people who's meant to come in to be like, do you see yourself doing this? Are you going to do this? So it's less about doing it with him. I think he is the Saturn that's prompting you to reevaluate whether or not you see yourself doing it or not. One thing that I've noticed, this is just my 2 cents, you really have to assess both charts in the exact time. But somebody who's got Saturn on your Venus, that's a difficult connection. Sometimes Saturn can be the glue, right? In Vedic, Saturn loves Venus, but usually the Saturn person can be too difficult to open up, to commit, and it will eventually kind of harden. I've seen the same thing with the moon. So you can go into detail or not, whatever you want, but the fact that his Saturn's on your moon and on your Venus, I think is interesting. Like, have you found it difficult to connect with this person in the past or get them to commit? He's also got moon in Aquarius, so that moon's in opposition to your natal moon and your natal Venus. I like moon oppose your Venus though, because you're like reaching for more. Give me more attention. Moon oppose moon, you guys are 2 different people though. You know, the moon, Venus in Leo needs the drama, needs the romance, needs the affection. Moon in Aquarius is not like that. And of course, this guy was going to go through a divorce. He's got Saturn opposes moon square Juno. So he was not really going to last in an existing marriage. And it looks to me like the writing's been on the wall really the better part of this last year because Jupiter was enacting squares between his Saturn and his Juno. So, it's also my experience that men who have, anybody who has placements like on an angle, conjunct Regulus, so like 27, 28, 29 degrees of Leo, where you have your Venus and your moon, these people either have too many children or they have no children. Trump's got 28, 29 degrees ascendant. He's got a ton of kids. I mean, the list goes on. I'm not just basing it off Trump, but I've seen a lot of people who have those placements that have a lot or they have none. So being that his Venus and his Saturn is close, he may just be somebody who just really loves children, right? And in theory, you should too, because you've got your 5th house ruler and your 3rd house ruler conjunct. But definitely with or without him, the next year of Saturn in opposition to your moon is really reevaluating whether or not you see yourself actually having children. He was in a motorcycle accident in October. Okay. Well, I mean, the other reason why he's asking you this is he's a Libra. And he's the first decan of Libra. So he's 0 degrees Libra. So, you know, Mercury's going retrograde right now in his 4th house. He's reevaluating what he wants from his home life and what decisions he's made in the past versus where he's going now. He's got Saturn in his 5th house, which rules children. Believe it or not, some of these people will be getting married and or having kids in the next 2 years, just according to his astrology in general, right? And I do think he is looking to settle down again because he's got the moon 5 houses from his sun. So it means that he does have an interest in having a child. If he did, it would be with a younger woman. Most likely if he had a younger woman who is a girlfriend, he would end up having another kid. It could, I'm just speculating, I'm not looking at his chart. It could be a daughter, right? And then Jupiter is going to go into his 7th house. This guy's for sure going to get married again. It may not be immediately. To me, it almost seems more like kids or discussions about kids, then commitment, or kid and then a commitment down the road. So definitely like Jupiter in his 7th, commitment oriented, probably either an engagement or a marriage actually at some point next year. And, you know, Jupiter's going to be sitting on your ascendant, Nancy. So that can be a transit that is a precursor or an indication of new beginnings and or pregnancy, especially because Jupiter is going to be squaring your North Node in the 4th. So to me, maybe this is the year that you think more about that and whether or not you want to do that, right? And your North Node ruler, Mercury, is actually in the 7th, conjunct his sun. So you guys should actually get on and communicate pretty well for the most part. But yeah, I do think that this guy's going to do this again, basically. And his Jupiter in your 4th house and his sun in your 7th, I mean, this would be a guy that would be like, do you want to move in? Do you want to move now? Are you coming to me? Am I coming to you? Type stuff. Libras are not screwing around. They are definitely really focusing on where they're living and making changes in their home life and also preparing to like have children in the next year or so. So let me know. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, so let's see who we've got next on the list. Susan, how's it going, Susan? Remind me, Susan, where were you born? I want to say it was like Louisiana or something. Ten 12/62. (9:07 a.m.) You're welcome, Nancy. Let me know how it goes. These are some good transits for you. There we go. It was Louisiana. Thank you. All right, girl, let's see what's going on in your chart. I know you got a lot of Libra, Scorpio. Thank you, guys. Okay, so listen, this is going to be a very eventful time. I remember talking to you about this, like, congratulations, you're over your 2nd Saturn return. High five. Papa, you made it. You got rid of all those shitty neighbors and all that gossiping and all that bullshit with people around town, hopefully. Now you're graduating and you're having Saturn actually coming into conjunction with your IC, the most southern part of your chart. So Saturn rules your 3rd house. Still neighbors, sometimes family members, considering move, thinking about buying land, all that fun stuff. So you want to be on the up and aware that buying homes, renovating homes, looking at property, selling property, dealing with older parents, older relatives, other family members, fixing up your home, it's all part of the course. Uranus actually rules your 4th house. So we're actually looking at Jupiter coming into an opposition with Uranus, which means friends in other places might be like, hey, I saw this property, it's for sale, take a look at it. Hey, I'm renting a house, I'm selling a house, would you like to see it? You're going to see these opportunities that are coming up in the next couple weeks. 2 is on top of Saturn crossing your IC, which I got to tell you is kind of a heavy time. There can be some depressing kind of moods or restrictions and setbacks and delays with property, but it's also your Jupiter return. So maybe you get really serious about dealing with finding a place that you want to settle into. Maybe you decide that you're willing to buy land or property and split it with somebody else, like a friend, or you go in on buying communal land with someone. Regardless, it's going to play out well. It'll be fine. I think you just need to get out of some of these heavy transits that are going to be in your 3rd house, which can cause issues with communication with people. You know, Scorpio risings right now with Saturn and all these other planets and these retrogrades in your 3rd has you stressed in how you communicate. And I would say, You want to watch out because you can have a little bit of a sharp tongue because it is, you know, coming into squares also with your sun. So it can be about you flushing out any anxiety that you're having about your career, any anxiety that you're having about relationships or partnerships. Look at the trines. Trines are where we make lemonade. So you've got all these planets in the late degrees of Capricorn trining the North Node in your 7th house. People who go, I'm offering you a relationship, I'm offering you money, I'm offering you land, I'm offering to support you. Girl, when you're having eclipses in your 7th house, significant partners show up. The North Node's been in Gemini for the last 2.5 years. So, well, 2 years. So we've seen 2 people come in at a time. So if you're a Scorpio rising and you have an intercepted 7th house, with the North Node having been in your 7th house, maybe it's like dealing with neighbors, dealing with business partners. There's a guy that likes you, but you want to be friends, whatever. When the North Node goes into Taurus, it's who you love. So you bring in wealthier partners, you bring in more reliable relationships, and I would say you want to go towards your North Node, right? For Libras, I know that you're a Scorpio rising, but for Libras, it's about bringing in partners who have resources, they have land, they have investments, they have money. In 2 years' time, you're going to have Jupiter go into your 7th house too, and you're just going to have some rich fucking dude. So I'm not giving you like the green light to be like the sugar baby, right? Or the gold digger. But I'm telling you that people are going to show up. And these are going to be people who have land, have money, have resources. So your job is to be open to receive. The South Node's coming into conjunction with your Venus, which means you have to, and you know you've had readings with me, I don't tell people you have to do anything because it's not my job, but you have to, and you really benefit from letting your guard down. Scorpio risings can just carry this armor where they're like, leave me alone, I'm prickly, don't touch me, I'm good, I'm not lovable, give me my space, whatever. That's not going to help you. Doing that this year is actually going to set you back from really being able to embrace your Uranus going into the 7th house transit. Uranus rules home and family, 7th house rules marriage and business partnerships. So when your 4th house ruler goes into the 7th house, you meet people who are like, I'm totally crazy about you. Will you move to come and be with me? Or I'll buy you a house, move into my house, or let's buy property together. Let's make money together. So you really want to pay attention to eclipses and when planets cross that 15 degrees of Taurus. South Node on your Venus can bring back partners from the past. People who you've worked with, people who've paid you, people who you've been in love with. And then you've also got Jupiter going into your 5th house. Girl, Jupiter is expansion and it is going to start sextiling the North Node. So this is a very happening chart, pretty much from April, man, clear all the way through August. That makes me feel like April to August, that 8-month period, you will be surprised how much will change as long as you're staying open to relationships. When Uranus ingresses into your 7th house, friends become lovers, lovers become friends, suddenly people, and you don't get on well, maybe you break up, maybe you meet somebody else. When Uranus went in and out of my 7th house, it was their 7th house, it goes through any sign for about 7 years. So when Uranus first went into my 7th house, I just immediately ended a relationship. Months later, started another relationship. A year later, got engaged. 7 years was like in and out of relationships. So buckle up. When it's in Taurus, it's more stable. So it's not going to be as crazy as Aries, but I definitely think it's going to be like really activating your Venus. So you're going to meet men that are just going to become super fixated on you. And they're going to be like, I want you. What's it going to take? What do you want? You're going to be like, I don't know. I'm doing me. I'm working on my business. I'm making money. I need to buy a house. I need to buy land. They'll be like, here you go. I have this. Right? So watch for that because it's activating your Venus. And when Uranus opposes Venus, it's going to be somebody who sees you and goes, oh my God, it's love at first sight. And they'll spoil you, basically. Now, it's not all super easy. Saturn's going to square this. So Saturn's really saying that, and you'll notice Saturn, like I have 4th house Saturn, but when I felt Saturn come into my 4th house, it materialized as certain limitations and setbacks. If I tried to move and the move wasn't in the cards, or it wasn't the right place for me, or it wasn't the right house, or if Saturn didn't want me living with somebody or didn't want somebody coming to my house, I felt it. I could see it. They would get lost trying to get to my place. I would have issues finding parking for them. I would find that I was kind of emotionally weird about having them in their space. So Saturn's going to do this thing where it's going to square your Venus, and it's also going to square off with Uranus, where you're going to go, no, I'm not moving in with you. I need my own space. I'm not getting married to you. We need to go back and forth for a little bit and feel it out and see how it goes type of vibes, right? And I would say, yeah, no. Libra Scorpio combination has been particularly difficult for the last couple of years. But now Jupiter's on your side, now Saturn's on your side. Things are actually going to ease up quite a bit. I would just say the only thing I would remind you is just have boundaries with your emotions. Don't be letting motherfuckers move in with you, okay? Be really cautious if you're looking at buying places, especially look at the foundation. Be really think it through when it comes to purchasing land, especially if you have a friend that's like, let's do it together, because it may not go well. You know, Saturn's going to square your Venus and you're going to look at it and you're going to go, actually, I don't know if it's a good idea if we do it together. So just really take that into consideration. I'm imagining also Jupiter coming into conjunction with your moon, because moon rules your 9th house. There's going to be an opportunity to move to a further away place. So that will open up, or you're looking at places further away. Likely that has land for horses, because the moon rules your 9th house, and that's horses and riding or teaching lessons. Maybe you're looking at teaching or doing shows in other places and you really like it. And 5th house moon can be boyfriends, romantic partners, you know, that come in, and money revolving around some kind of business involving horses, or a business involving horses and children. So just food for thought. I would say let this kind of settle in until about May, June. You know, obviously you want to come back, do the live readings, check in with me, totally fine, book a reading, whatever you need. But this is going to get more active right around April, May. And you'll see, because of the eclipses. Eclipses in the 7th house Taurus are wonderful, because partners start showing up 100%. Hopefully that was helpful for you. I remember, I'm like an elephant. I remember a lot of things. I can't remember people's names, but I somehow know where they live, and I remember all their things. You've been a client of mine for a long time. Of course I remember. All right, so we've got Teresa. Teresa says, for my solar return, I have 6 planets in the 2nd house. Really curious what that may bring and what you see. March 1st, 1981 in Brunswick, New Jersey. Okay, so Teresa, where have you lived for the majority of the last 2 years? That's what I would like to look at for your solar return. So what city have you been in for the most part? (2:48 a.m.) Pennsylvania. Yeah. How about everybody listening gets a rich man and giving away houses and land? That's the benefit of being a Scorpio rising. You always have wealthy, stable, stubborn, slow partners, but at least they're reliable. All right. So Stroudsburg. Okay, so she's asking questions about her solar return. That's her birthday chart for the next year. Holy fucking second house. Look at that 2nd house. Ah! It doesn't always mean what you think, though. People are like, 2nd house stellium, I'm going to make a bunch of money. Yes and no. The way that you want to read a stellium is you have to take into consideration all of the planets all of the houses that those planets rule, right? So yeah, 2nd house is money and resources, 100%. So we look at the 2nd house, money and resources, the money that you make, the money that you bring in, but the filter is through Capricorn. So girl, you're gonna work hard for the money. It's not gonna be something that's just gonna show up. It's gonna take time. And solar returns can oftentimes take a full annual year for that stuff to come to fruition, right? I didn't look at your natal, but can you just tell me, so I don't have to go back and forth between two screens, what's your natal sun, moon, and rising? Obviously, I know you're a Pisces, but what's your rising sign? I'm doing way better recently than in the last many years. I am glad to hear that. So let's break it down. This is the Sag ruled chart, ruled by Jupiter, and you've got Jupiter conjunct the sun in the 3rd. So what's expanding, right? What's getting more positive? Where is there more highlightedness? Well, your sun, which rules the 9th house of education, is conjunct Jupiter, which is expansion. So you're expanding in knowledge. You're going to school, you're driving more. Oh, okay, 29 degrees. Okay, got it, thank you. There is a sense of you increasing knowledge, increasing beliefs. Cat moon 6 degrees, okay. Venus, Mars, and Pluto, that's the big ones for me. Mars rules the 12th house, Venus rules the 6th house and the 5th house in this chart, and Pluto rules Scorpio, which is also the 12th. Going back to school, spending money on school, but it's worth it because you're going to make money, obviously still working. I'm really interested to see what happens just before your birthday. You could have a nice like little chunk of change that can come in right when this conjunction is actually getting ready to happen, just prior to your birthday. It's safe to say you'll be making even more money come Capricorn season at the end of 2022. So you think of like December going into the new year, more resources. All of those planets sextile the South Node in Scorpio. So did you get any like support? Like, is anybody helping fund you going to school? Did you get a partial scholarship? Did you qualify because of like your income? Is there anything like that? Because that's something else that you can gain. So it's helping you in that sense. But when we look at it, you know, if you're natally a Sag rising 29 degrees, all of these planets are pretty much sitting in your first going into your 2nd house. So you're kind of glowing and growing up in a way and becoming super passionate about your goals and what it is that you're just really focusing on in terms of your career, right? I love that all of the 2nd house trines the North Node in the 6th, also ruled by Venus. So going to school and starting to kind of focus on making more money and kind of growing. Yeah, you got grants. See, that's part of your 2nd house, by the way. That's Pluto, because Pluto rules the South Node in your 12th. So it was given to you. They were helping you pay for going to school. There may even be some loan forgiveness that might happen as well. But I'm liking that all of that trines your 6th house. So it's almost like working and really going to school, getting into the flow of that, especially right around May, June, July. There can be more opportunities to like be working and giving back and service. To me, the 2nd house is self-esteem too. So it's like Stella's getting her groove back this year. Teresa's getting her groove back this year. And focusing a lot on self-esteem, building yourself up, the body, also what you're eating. Cooking skills might be off the hook, so you might be like having to focus more on, because you're so busy and you're going to school and you're working, food prepping, preparing food, taking responsibility for your budgets, things like that. Getting my life back on track after a horrible 20-year marriage. Well, I gotta tell you, it's a great time to be getting all that moving and shaking. Really, it's the optimism of just your faith and your belief in yourself that's really expanding, to be honest with you. Being that Venus, Mars, and Pluto are conjunct, all in a Saturn sign, I'm wondering if there is some sense of being more strict about how much money you're spending on food or budgeting things, or just, you know, kind of like weighing your options and going like, I can't be spending a lot of money on going out to eat. I can't be spending a lot of money on beauty and cosmetics. I'm sticking to my budget, because I do see the moon and Saturn in a square to the nodes. So you're aware that, you know, you've made more, but to me, it seems like you're still kind of focusing on like saving and just being a little bit more frugal with your resources. I guess one other thing I would say is that Saturn conjunct the moon is going to be an interesting thing to watch, because I know Saturn's going to get up to, I think, about 26, 27 degrees. So technically Saturn will conjunct that moon, which is the ruler of the 8th house. So finances still can get a little tight through April. So even if stuff's coming in, then I would say just, you know, really focus on resourcefulness. The 2nd house is resourcefulness. People think they see 2nd house and they're like, oh, lavish, indulgent, this and that. If you've got Libra or Scorpio in the 2nd house, yes. If you have Capricorn, it's like pinching pennies, and just because you have it doesn't mean you're going to spend it, and really being particular. I think maybe it's through working through issues with guilt also. Capricorn is very much associated with guilt. So it can be that you're being so frugal that you almost feel bad spending money on yourself. But I would say spend money on things that are going to make sense and that are going to last. So instead of buying cheap stuff, you know, focus on buying things that are going to last. I'm making more than I ever have and saving more than ever. So exciting. I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, yeah, the money in the bank is going to make you feel better, but I think that this is just more about you being like, okay, I came out of the marriage and I'm self-sufficient and I'm doing it myself. Look at me go, right? And definitely there's a lot of like reevaluating money and maybe even talking to people about what you do with your money, where you invest your money. That's going to be coming sometime in the spring. So hopefully that's helpful for you. So we're getting ready to call last call on the readings. Don't worry guys, we're still working through people in the chat. Looks like we just spoke to, so we got Teresa. Yes, Rachel, I got you. I've got Stephanie, Selena, Rachel, and Cecilia. And don't worry, Rome, I know you're there. I see you. I've got you too. Thank you guys for your patience. Call last call. So if you haven't already gotten in, please do get in so that way we can get everybody. Thank you guys for your donations and your generosity. Looks like Malaya snuck in there too, so we got you too. Stephanie asks, any major changes, home, career, or relationship? 7393. I need to have the time and the date. The time and the date, guys, just to expedite the process. Stephanie, can I get that from you? (7/3/1993) Montclair. Make sure you guys put that in the memo for me, please. Otherwise, I'm going to have to bump you and go to the next person. Let's see, just want to make sure. Did we get that info from you, Selena, as well? Thank you, Stephanie. 2 p.m. Home, relationships, and career was the question you had. Whoa, Libra rising. Yeah, probably the biggest changes I see more so are going to be, well, relationships and home. Not that career isn't. Jupiter's trining your sun. So Jupiter is the ruler of your 3rd house of communication. It's going into your 5th house of hobbies. It's trining your sun, self-expression, creativity, maybe considering your own business to some extent. That's possible. But the biggest shifts are actually coming from both your home and your relationship life. So Libra rising, Mars, Venus, Pluto, all coming into conjunction with your IC. I'm wondering right now if you're thinking about possibly moving or relocating. Your chart ruler is Venus, and Venus is going retrograde back and forth through all of your natal placements in the 3rd. So it's a lot of like, am I moving? Is somebody moving in or out of my house? Is my family moving? Is there some kind of stress going on with a sibling or another family member? So that seems to be really prominent, especially because conjunctions are going to start happening in your natal 3rd house. So Mars is going to hit your moon, Venus is going to hit your Neptune, then Uranus. So I'm wondering what's going on there. Are you thinking about moving in with a friend? Are you thinking about moving in or moving back home to some extent? Is there something like that happening? With a Mercury retrograde and a Venus retrograde, buying, okay? You want to buy during a time that's going to be more smooth, to be honest with you. Purchasing is going to be Mars. So I would say Mars coming into a conjunction with your moon when Mercury has stationed direct is going to be a lot stronger for you from February 6th. Clear all the way to about mid-March. And if you're buying, yeah, sibling drama is inevitable. Are you buying on your own or are you buying with a family member? Because buying with a family member can be complicated and complex. If you're buying with a partner, if you're just buying and having somebody possibly move in, that would be better. So something about this, I'm seeing Saturn squaring in on your 4th house. So the next 2 months, the big topic is how you're dealing with family drama, separating yourself from family drama, focusing on your home base and what's going on with your home. Okay, Saturn is going to square the nodes in the 7th house. So that tells me North Node conjunct your Venus. If you haven't already come into a significant connection with somebody, you're going to. If you're in a relationship, it's going to get stronger. So Jupiter is in your 5th house of romance and children. It's sextiling your Venus. So you're either going to meet somebody and start talking about settling down, or it's going to be a situation where if you're with somebody, you're going to be going back and forth and talking about whether or not you're really in love, whether or not you're open or interested in the idea of family, having children and stuff. More of the energy is really focused on cutting ties with home and family, moving away from that drama, getting your own space, focusing on what's going on with your relationships. Even with that being said, Pluto's going to come into a conjunction with your IC over the next 2 years. So that tells me that there's still some kind of change and transformation in regards to your home and your property. So there may be renovations, maybe you're putting money into it, anything like that. It's definitely something that's possibly going to happen. And your Saturn is at 29 degrees. So thankfully your Saturn in the 4th house trines your ascendant. 29, even your Saturn squares Venus. Be very mindful about who you partner up with this year and whether or not they're actually going to chip in and pool with the resources, Saturn in the 4th, right? So if somebody comes in, they need to be willing to pull their weight. I think your relationship life is about to be off the hook, to be honest with you. And my guess is that this is really strong by about mid-year to the end of the year. And then it's going to get even better when Jupiter goes into Aries next year. So, I mean, I think you're in a pretty significant relationship probably next spring. But Saturn in the 4th is like heavy mom stuff, especially Saturn square Pluto. So it is a good idea to have some space from the family. It's the best advice I can give you. Really consider a Saturn return reading. Your Saturn return isn't technically going to begin until closer to the beginning of next year. But I definitely think that you are going to start feeling the heat now because the nodes are squaring in on your Saturn. So that's why you're like, I got to move. I need my own space. But even if you buy a house, you might lease a room out to a friend or something because Saturn in Aquarius in the 4th is communal living. So there's a possibility that you don't live alone, that you rent your space out. Maybe it makes sense because it helps you pay for your expenses, right? Jupiter going into your 5th house too. I'd like to see you traveling more or maybe learning a new language or brushing up on a language so you can go on a trip later this year. That's something else I would recommend. Hopefully that was helpful. Do consider talking to an astrologer. Talk to somebody at the end of this year and get ready for your Saturn return because Saturn at 29 it's got a lot of emphasis, you know? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let's see, so we've got here now Cecilia. Let's see, I know you plugged in your info. What's up, Kobe? How's it going? I was seeing your Venus direct post. Like right when I was scrolling, I was like, I can feel it's ending. And then I saw your post. All right. January 27th, 1981. Uh, 9:28 a.m. in San Diego. And let's see. Did I get a question from you? Astrology reading live. Any particular questions you have for me? I apologize, I'm scrolling up. So I've got your time, but I don't know if I see your question. So guys, make sure you, in the memo, put your info and also your question. Where's my love life going? Went through a breakup in October, reconnect and disconnect with an ex long distance, started dating someone, but it ended before it's really got going. Okay. Yeah, we're doing Cecilia Marquez first. Then I have, oh, Selena, excuse me, Selena Marquez. Selena. And then Cecilia. Selena, Rachel, Cecilia. Okay, so question about love. Aries rising. Well, part of what's been going on is you've got Venus that's been going retrograde over your natal Venus in the 10th, you know? So in your astrology, it's not just one Venus return, it's 3. You had one, it went retrograde, it conjunct Pluto, it hit it again, and now it's direct, so it's going to come back. And each and every one of these Venus returns are in your 10th house, and it's squaring Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, and the moon. So going through kind of like that whole, well, it didn't really work out, we didn't get on well, you know, there was an issue. I think the next one is going to be very telling, and that's going to be right around here, because you're going to have Mars and Venus conjunct your natal Venus. So that's good. No, that's not a yikes. That's good. But February 19th through February 26th is like go time, because you're going to have the squares to Pluto, and Mars is going to be there as well. Venus in Capricorn. Venus rules your natal 2nd house and your natal 7th house. These are Venus houses in general. So you're an Aries rising, but the difference between Venus in the 2nd and Venus ruling the 7th is 2nd is more possessive. Venus is more out in the open. So if you have Venus in the 10th ruling your 2nd and your 7th house, you need somebody who's career oriented, they're making moves, they know they want commitment, they don't have a problem being in a public relationship. You need somebody who also is goal oriented when it comes to planning the future. What are we doing? Venus in Capricorn. You approach relationships more like a business, right? Where it's like, okay, what do we both bring to the table? What are we planning on? So if you're going back and forth with people who don't even know what they want to eat for dinner tomorrow, let alone whether or not they want to be in a long-term relationship, bye. That's what the Venus retrograde's about right now. I know that sounds insensitive, but trust me. There's good things happening. Saturn in Aquarius is coming into conjunction with your Mars in the 11th. So you're focusing more on fulfillment from groups and friendships. I'm not saying you can't date, but once Saturn conjuncts your chart ruler and it's trining your Pluto, you might kind of spend a lot of time with your friends. Your friends might set you up with somebody. A relationship can actually come from a friendship. You might see someone differently than how you saw them before, right? And I think Saturn in a trine to your Pluto is going to get you really fixated on your goals all year long when it comes to relationships and partnerships. You need a very strong Venus transit to have relationships change in your 7th house. And to be honest with you, it's been several years of Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto all in a square to planets in your 7th house. Now you're in the clear, right? So believe it or not, like looking for somebody who's older. I don't just say that because it's Venus in Capricorn. I say it because it's in the 10th. Looking also for somebody who's not going to try to control or dominate you and let you also focus on your career if that's what makes you happy, right? And I also think that probably when Uranus is coming into a trine with your Venus, that's also mirroring what I was saying. Saturn in your 11th trine your 7th house. A setup maybe, somebody sets you up with somebody Maybe you meet somebody through friends or socializing. It's getting pretty strong in May, June, because the trine is happening. Some of the best changes in relationships will happen when Uranus trines Venus, because it rules your 7th house, and it might be something that you kind of feel like you need to keep in the background and you kind of need to feel it out first before there's commitment, but it'll be fine. You've also got Jupiter coming into a trine. Jupiter rules your natal 9th house. Not a trine, excuse me, a sextile. Jupiter's coming into a sextile with your Venus as well. So that kind of makes me feel like even if somebody comes in, you're like, I want to feel it out and really make sure this is a match before I like tell the world we're together. And then what I'm anticipating is when Jupiter, ruler of the 9th, comes into Aries and it opposes your natal Libra placements and it squares Venus, you'll be like, and we're together. Ah! So it'll be more so the second half. Yeah, let your friends hook you up with people, because to be honest with you, if you're an Aquarius and you're an 11th house Aquarius and you got all those trines to your 7th house Libra, Libra energy is inherently indecisive, okay? You have Saturn and Jupiter conjunct in Libra. Saturn is exalted in Libra. We know you know how to partner. The problem is there's other people who don't quite know, you know, what they want, or there's relationship issues from the past that are coming back. Obviously, karma is neither good nor bad. It's just neutral, but you got a lot of karma with relationships because you got Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, and the moon all in your 7th house, right? So you need partners who are mature. They know what they not want. They have a plan. They have a career. They have their shit together. So you don't need to worry about it, right? But a really strong Venus transit's going to do that. So Uranus trine your Venus, I think, is probably your best bet. Jupiter sextile your Venus, also a really good bet. And I think you'll see more of that kind of materialize right around the spring. And then when you're inching towards the beginning of next year and you've got like, you know, Juno and Jupiter and all these planets, you know, squaring your Venus and in opposition to your 7th, it's like, then that's more commitment oriented in my opinion. And the South Node's going to conjunct the moon in your 7th. So that also can kind of really get you seriously thinking about domestic relationships with somebody to an extent. So yeah, let people set you up. Be super open to that, and watch what happens when even Saturn gets into Pisces, you know, next year and starts sextiling your Venus. That'll be good for you too. I just feel like it's going to be kind of behind the scenes. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Thank you guys for your patience. Rachel, what's up, girl? Let me plug in your info. Sorry, guys, I have to scroll back. So if you guys don't put it in the memo, I have to scroll back to find it. So it takes me just a second. Let's see. I should have your info saved, but I don't. Rachel, can you give that to me again, please? And then Cecilia, you're on deck. Oh, I realized you just paid for Synastry. My bad. I just saw the other thing. Let me plug this in. So 626.84 Berkeley. And that was at 9:38 a.m. All right, so you're asking about Synastry 41276. All right. $412.76. And this is for Greg. Okay, so synastry between the two of you guys. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so your chart is on the outside. The Leo rising. So he's got his Saturn conjuncture Juno. That I like. His Venus is in your 8th, so that's a sexy connection. But his Saturn squares your Pluto. So what's the deal there? You guys have issues revolving around like possibly making the relationship like public? Is there something there? Is there something hidden? Saturn rules your 6th and your 7th house. So, you know, he's got some heavy transits going on right now. Pluto is in opposition to his Saturn with Mars and Venus. So the beginning of March is going to be an interesting time to watch for, because it's some kind of breakthrough in regards to like a living situation. Do you guys live in 2 different places? What's the deal? Moon, trine moon, nice. I like that. You guys are both air moons. His Mars is in close proximity to your Venus, which is sexy, and your Mercury. So that can be some heated kind of discussions. Oh, well, we just started working together. So is this the person who I remember talking to you about before, like a while ago? Where you were like talking about starting to do some kind of work, or you were thinking about doing it? We live together. Okay. Yeah, I just kind of get the impression that you really need to look out for March, because all of those oppositions to his Saturn, especially because he's in Aries. So, you know, Saturn is 4 signs from his home, from his ascendant. So if Saturn rules his home, you've got all these planets at the top part of his chart, which rule career, and it's all going to square his sun, which means it's going to be like too much working together, too much home together. I need my fucking independence. I need my space, and he could pop. Okay, because it's going to be Mars, Venus, Pluto all square to his sun, and he can get kind of short-tempered. He needs to be working out more, and also you just might notice that there is this stress revolving around whether or not you guys have enough space within the house and also working together, so that's a lot. Venus square Jupiter, nice, I like it. I think that just, you know, your North Node, his North Node conjuncture Saturn is also reiterating like focusing on work, but there can be this feeling of like you guys being really hypercritical of each other, sometimes working together, especially in how you communicate, right? Just knowing that you're a Leo rising and Saturn's going deeper into your 7th house. When Saturn crosses an angle, you're going to feel it, girl. And it's going to be like whether or not, you know, relationships really are working. And when you have a 7th house Aquarius, learning to let other partners have independence and sometimes kind of giving them a little bit of space, and also just really focusing on, you know, building the foundation of the friendship is really important. But yeah, moving is great. I really think moving is definitely necessary to help kind of give each other the space that you guys need, so you're not always working and living on top of each other, even if you guys get on really well. Venus square Venus is an interesting one, especially because he's got Moon, Pluto in opposition to his Venus. So I'm curious about the relationship with his mom. His mom might be kind of like too much or heavy-handed or really intense or smothering. So sometimes he can bring those relationships into his life, and you guys kind of trigger each other because you have a bunch of cardinal T-squares. So like he's got Mars in Cancer, Venus in Aries, Moon, Pluto in Libra, and then your Jupiter completes that square. So when you have a relationship with somebody where you guys both have a lot of cardinal placements, remember, cardinal initiates, fixed signs carry things out, and, you know, mutable signs are willing to kind of create change. Both of you guys have a lot of fixed and a lot of cardinal, not a lot of mutable. He doesn't have a ton of mutable in his chart. So with that being said, you guys can start things but get agitated because you guys are both starting things, but there's issues with actually finishing them, or issues with flexibility. Both people want to tell people what to do. And the Cancer is more nurturing. I'm more concerned actually about the Pluto Moon in his chart square all of your 11th house. So it's putting the pressure on you when it comes to your goals. Sometimes these partners can be like, you're too much. And then when you give them space and you like let them breathe and you're going out and you're doing things, then he can get really kind of clingy. So just some emotional moodiness with all of those squares, you know. I'm going to tell you to go back and lean on your 11th house. You got to make sure you have organizations, friends, people that you're working with, especially if you're somebody who's used to working in a big company, or you're used to working for a corporate company where you're around a lot of people. Now you're thrown into a situation where you're working from home, working with a partner, and you're working one-on-one with somebody, and you don't have that social stuff. You really need that. Like, that's going to actually kind of diffuse some of the conflict. And if a guy's got Venus in Aries, you just need to leave him the fuck alone. You can't smother him all the time. I'm not saying you do, but you have Sun and Venus in Cancer. So it's like a lot of like, let's hang out with my friends. Let's do this. Come out. Let's socialize. Let's do this. Let's do that. Venus and Aries don't do that. So you actually benefit by giving them their space. And because Venus is in opposition to his moon and his Pluto, if there's too much intensity, go out and do things, leave him alone. And he'll be like texting you from home being like, when are you coming back? Especially if you guys are like in each other's face a lot. So understand that when you're dealing with a man that's got moon Pluto, that's kind of like a Mars energy. It's like a Scorpio energy. So it likes to kind of fight. And when Venus is in Scorpio or Aries, it's a Mars related sign. So they will start conflict because they like the friction, especially because his Venus squares Mars, his Venus squares your Venus. You guys have some friction, there's intensity, and he like likes it. It's like his way of knowing he's getting attention, even if it's, any attention is good attention, even if it's conflict. So you want to try to diffuse him? Yeah, I know what that's like. I would say the other thing is that Uranus is on his south node, so he's having to learn to practice detachment and letting go. And it's interesting because your Saturn and Mars is on his north node, which for an Aries is like, hey, we need to merge, we need to share, we need to transform, we need to come together. How do we come together? So you encourage him to psychologically kind of look at merging, right? Mark my words, watch what happens at the beginning of March, because the move I think is good, but it's like, oh my God, April can't come soon enough, because that break, that friction is really going to start hitting him really hard in March. So I would say if you need a follow-up, check in with me then. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Exciting stuff. Gotta love those cardinal T-squares, especially when there's two of you guys with that. It's like neither one of you guys can sit still. You gotta watch out for telling each other what to do. Cecilia, the real Cecilia, not Selena, sorry. I've got you here July 6, 1993. And that's at 1:27 p.m. And it looks like that was in what city? You're very welcome. Let's see, where was it? Where was it? What city was that? You're very welcome, Rachel. Cecilia, can you remind me what city, please? And then I'm going to next go to Rome and do your Synastry question. And then I've got Malaya. Thank you guys for your patience. Sacramento, thank you. All right, so what is your question, Cecilia? How can I help you? Scrolling through. Let me know. I'm not seeing, looking to hear something good. Not happy in my love life. Well, girl, a couple things. So love life is going to be a combination of your 5th house and also a combination of your 7th house. Venus is your chart ruler. So Venus is going retrograde in your 5th, excuse me, your 4th. So home and wellness. Here's one thing I would say. Venus going retrograde in your 4th as a Libra rising is like a lot of reflecting on relationships in the past and what has and has not worked, and whether or not you feel like you need closure from the past, or whether or not you're having some kind of like breakup happening that's getting you in your feelings and thinking about the past and wanting closure. There can be friction with like not enjoying where you're living, not really enjoying what's going on, also with like family. I mean, I know it sounds kind of like doom and gloom, but that's what happens with this retrograde. When you see changes that are positive in your love life will be when you have a really strong Mars transit, and actually you're having one now. So Jupiter's in your 5th house, which is bringing you new opportunities for romantic partners. Likely they're going to be in other places because Jupiter rules the 3rd. If you take a course, if you're on the internet, if you're talking to people, you could meet somebody. Granted, they're in another place possibly. And when Jupiter comes into opposition with your Mars, it's possible you're out with your friends, you're on the different side of town, something like that, you meet somebody new. Mercury is also going retrograde in Aquarius, which is technically your 5th house, but it's going retrograde in the 4th. And you're also coming up on Saturn on your moon. So it's getting you to think about whether or not you're happy with the state of your life, where you're living, working through some kind of family-related conflict or drama. And then your natal Saturn and your Saturn return is in the 5th, which is coming up pretty soon. So I'm not a whole sign house reader. Technically, Saturn's in your 4th, so you're dealing with lower moods and just issues revolving around possibly depression, being a little bummed out, feeling stuck at home. But now Saturn's going to come into your 5th house, Placidus-wise. That's going to be in February, and it's trying to get you to focus more on being your own best friend, taking yourself on dates, making yourself happy, focusing and working harder on dating, having a dating pool. Aquarius is a pool, so people who you choose from. So I would say like being flexible and being open to like a couple different people that you're seeing and you're getting to know can be better. Love life stuff in theory should get a little bit easier right around the beginning of April on, when Mars and Venus enter into your 5th house. Just a heads up, I would say be cautious, because Venus in your 5th house of dating, one night stands, going to the bars, meeting somebody, is coming into a square with the North Node in your 8th and Uranus as well later this year. People who have Saturn squares from the 5th to the 8th benefit. I'm not saying you should, but you benefit from taking dating more seriously, because I've seen a lot of unexpected pregnancies with Saturn in the 5th squaring Uranus in the 8th. So that can happen, especially for a Libra rising chart, because Jupiter is technically going to be in your 5th house for a while. But yeah, dating's going to get a little bit easier April on. And I feel like maybe like the Saturn square with the nodes coming into a square with Saturn is also going to be like, how do I date? Things are locked down. It's hard for me to get around. How do I meet people? Aquarius is the internet, by the way. So you might start talking to somebody online. Like I said, strong Mars transits will produce somebody coming in. So that's looking strongest from about May 28th. I would say maybe to about August. So that 3-4 month period, you can meet people. And what's interesting about this time is like Jupiter is also now coming into a sextile with your moon. So actually relationships will only get better as you get into the end of 2022. And then finally in 2023, when Jupiter, Venus, and Juno in the North Node are all moving into your 7th house and they're sextiling your Saturn, relationships are going to be even better next year. But now it's like, how do you deal better with your emotions? How do you remove yourself from difficult living situations? Do you need to move? Do you need to relocate? Right? Pluto, Mars, Venus are also going to all oppose your Mercury. So it's like some kind of breakdown revolving around your responsibility out in the world, or having stress regarding like trying to figure out a career path. That's something else that's kind of going on right now. But to be honest with you, like relationship stuff's only going to get better, right? It's going to get better. I'm more concerned with what's going on with your family or your home or your living situation right now. So yeah, by the time you get to April, you're going to start seeing you're coming out of it. But we're very much in the retrograde shadow, both Mercury and Venus, until the beginning of March. And where there's breakdown, there's breakthrough. So one thing I'll tell you is that Saturn on your moon is no joke, girl. By whole sign, that's your 5th house. So technically, a whole sign analysis would say, are you dating because you want to get married? Are you dating because you want to have kids? It's not an age thing, but when Saturn hits your moon, if the moon is whole sign in the 5th house, it's trying to get you to take dating more seriously, because if it's important for you to date for marriage or procreation, then you have to take it a little bit more seriously. And I would say watch out for kind of situationships with like Saturn in your 5th of like romance squaring Uranus in the 8th. Other people can be a little like iffy and not as reliable. And at least Saturn is in a trine to your South node right now. So I think what's going on is it's clearing out people who aren't really going to give you true love. Hopefully that's helpful. As a Libra rising myself, I gotta tell you the last 2 months has been rough, but it's gonna get better. And whatever has been clearing out, it's been clearing out because it needs to get cleared out, because you're starting new patterns. Put flowers in your house, take baths. That'll be really helpful because you have Neptune in the 4th. Clearing baths, scrub your feet, and really focus on removing any like negative emotions, doing clearing. Use lots of rose, quartz, anything that's going to be more like heart related, especially because you'll respond really well to aromatherapy, or you'll respond really well to flowers. Try to have soothing music in the house, things like that, so you can go through things. Do not reminisce on the past. If somebody's gone, let them go, because what's coming, the Jupiter going into Aries, is always new. There's something fresh, brand new that's going to show up. And for a woman, that can be a transit that can indicate husband material coming in. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Sending you lots of good vibes. Roam, roam. And then I'm going to be talking to Malaya. Make sure that that's the last of my people. And maybe somebody else snuck in here. I don't have an Alex unless they came in through Super Chat. I do not have an Alex in my PayPal, so I do not. We had Stephanie, Brandon, Nancy, Susan, Teresa, Stephanie, Selena, Rachel, Cecilia just now. We have Rome and Malaya. So if you're going to get it in now. Hey, Rome, what's going on? Let's plug in your info. Let's see what's up. My question is, will me and my girlfriend make it long term, or will she cheat and break up when we break up? My chart is 9/15/82. (7:33 p.m.) I just want to remind you guys that astrology can talk to you about what's likely to take place, but you guys have free will. So for me to be like, yes, they will or will not cheat, I can't always tell you that, because I can tell you what's likely to happen. So I'm going to look at your chart, look at your guys' charts together. 7:33 p.m. and that was in Laguna Beach. And then she is 9/6/95. And that was at 1:01 p.m. New Mexico. So what is that? 12:01 p.m. Will you let me know if that's right in terms of the time zone difference? Okay, so let's talk about your chart and then we'll talk about her chart. Aries rising, you know, in terms of relationships, I mean, Venus rules your 7th, obviously Mercury, Saturn, Pluto, all in your 7th house. You've been through the ringer with relationships and challenges. 101. Okay, thank you. There we go. So you've been through it in relationships, you know, like you know what I'm talking about. You got Saturn and Pluto there, so relationships can definitely have a hold on you. But your 7th house is your first marriage or child, so if you've already had one of those, really you're bumping yourself into your 9th house, which is like a Uranus, Neptune, Juno, so that can be more kind of connection. I think really one thing I would say to you is that being a Virgo right now, there's a lot of you thinking about true love, whether or not you're going to have true love with a younger person, if this is it, if everything's going to pan out, because it's all happening in your 5th house. However, it's happening technically 5 signs from your sun, which is in your 10th, which is like, is it going to be public? Am I going to feel silly putting it out there if it's not going to work out and if it's not going to pan out? Okay? 2, Neptune is now in opposition to your sun. So it's about somebody coming in. Is it too good to be true? Is it going to work? Are they going to stay type vibes? So usually when you're going through that transit, you can bring somebody in who's got some kind of Piscean or kind of Neptunian themes in their chart. Let's look at her astrology. She's got Saturn in Pisces. So Neptune is right on top of her Saturn in opposition to your sun. Okay, so it's about clarity, commitment, whether or not she's really going to be there, if you guys share the same vision. And she's got Pluto and Venus coming into conjunction with her Neptune and her natal Uranus. Thankfully, you guys are both Virgos. So you guys are both going through similar energy at the same time. Where relationships have breakdowns is when I see squares like between Venus or Pluto. So actually, her Venus is on your sun, so that's a really great connection. And your Venus is conjunct her sun, so I think maybe both of you guys may have similar fears, to be honest with you. Her Neptune Uranus squares your Saturn Pluto, so I feel like it's more about whether or not she's going to be open to other lovers, or where you guys stand on the topic or the idea of children and true love, and whether you guys are on the same page with that. And just me personally, because Saturn rules your 10th house, like, does she not post photos of you guys together? Or is there some feeling of like you feeling hidden? Or is it you being apprehensive of posting and putting stuff out there that you guys are together? But yeah, the Sun-Venus connections between you guys are really great. I actually really like that connection. What I will tell you is that she has the North Node and Mars in Libra, so that can be an indication of like being somebody who goes through karmic breaks in relationships. So her Mars being conjunct both your Saturn, but more so your Pluto, makes me feel like she can bring about issues that remind you of past experiences in relationships. Her North Node on your Pluto might make you like really need to kill off your past issues in partnerships and relationships, fears especially, right? So fears revolving around that. I don't really feel like, I mean, people who have Venus conjunct the sun, she's got it pretty strongly. Obviously, pretty girl, right? But I think like with men, it's harder for a guy to have his sun conjunct Venus. Yours is far enough away, it's 12-degree orb. So, you know, usually if a guy has sun conjunct Venus, like there's too many options, there's women always around, they can't really choose. She has that conjunction, but it's more along the lines of her needing space from relationships. Saturn opposed Venus. Her relationships are going to mature as she gets closer to being 30. So right now, you know, Neptune's conjunct her Saturn, and it's in opposition to her sun. So maybe she's meeting somebody who's like, I'll commit to you, I'll give you what you want, but you can't hide her either. So the hiding thing can't happen. With Virgos, it's like you guys are in or you're out. You got to make up your mind. And a lot of you guys are dealing with childhood issues. I don't get a bad vibe. I just feel like you really want to watch when Mars and Venus in early March go through her Neptune and her Uranus. because it's going to square her North Node and her Mars. So you're going to see where this kind of falls closer to about a month from now. And believe it or not, for Virgos, it's about a breakthrough and like really saying I love you and being more so open, right? Like I'm not getting like quote unquote cheater vibes. Venus conjunct the sun, Venus sextile the North Node Mars. She's passionate. She does also have a Venus square Jupiter, so, you know, big love. But she doesn't have aspects that concern me other than the fact that sometimes people keep her at a distance and like, you know, she doesn't like being put in a corner. So if you're hiding her or whatever, she's going to get kind of riled up about it. She's not going to be into that, you know? And Saturn's conjunct her moon right now. So that's the other thing I would say is that, you know, it's like there can be some emotional challenges kind of happening for her in regards to that at the moment. See what happens in March. I don't get a bad vibe at all. Her Mercury on your descendant means that she's willing to work things out and communicate with you. But if you're hiding her, that's going to be a real bone of contention, especially later in the spring when Mars comes into conjunction with Neptune. She could be like, if you're hiding me, what's the point? She can get a little passive aggressive, like in May. So you want to watch for that. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Hope that helps. I know we have Malaya. We have somebody else. Alex, I think, was trying to get through. I have a Rachel, but I do not have an Alex, so I'm not sure. Make sure you have the right link. These are going to be the last people for the night. Excuse me. Yeah, Alexa. Alexa, I don't have anything coming through, so it's very odd. If anything comes through later, if we end the live, I will either send you the reading via email or send it back to you, but I do not have anything, unfortunately. There's nothing here. So if you have like a receipt, like a PayPal ID number, let me know and I can try to troubleshoot that, but there's nothing here. You're welcome, Rom. Okay, so Malaya, I know I saw your info up here. I gotta scroll up, so give me a second. 5/2/2001. May 2nd, 2001, and that was at 5:56 p.m. Oh, 6:56 p.m. And that was in Pontiac, Michigan. Okay, so let's see your question. Can I ask for a general reading? I'd like to know more about how my 20s will go. I'm turning 21 and 20 was already insane. Hi there, nice to see you. All right, so question about your 20s. Well, here we go. We have another Libra rising. Part of the reason why it's been crazy for you is, well, a number of reasons. One is like you had your nodal return not too long ago, so that's kind of like a hard realignment. I wonder if that was just about lots of changes in terms of the direction with where you were living or even possibly even going to school. Some of the bigger transits that you're going to be kind of going through here pretty soon, like long term, is Saturn's going to be in your 4th house for the next 2 years. So this year and really part of next. Saturn in your 4th house will be trining your ascendant. So you could go back home. You can find a place that you want to lay roots. You may be focused on your heritage and like learning about where you and your family come from. Saturn's going to conjunct Uranus later this year, so that's something else to watch for, where I feel like there's going to be some communal living situation or making changes with where you're living or how you're living, and it can be a little turbulent. So, you know, thankfully it's going to trine your ascendant, so it's here to kind of teach you more about changes, and there's the family that you're born into and the family you make. Uranus in Aquarius in the 4th house makes me feel like your friends are going to be more like family for you to some extent, and you're going to learn this a lot in the next year, that the support, if you feel like there's some like lacking of support from one of your parents, that's going to kind of fill in the gaps and your friends become your family. Jupiter's also going to go into Aries later this year. It's going to conjunct your Venus. That's great. Your health is going to get better. So you might commit more so seriously to regularly working out, going with a trainer. You might start a new job. Venus is your chart ruler. It makes me feel like you're just going to be better just about like maintaining things, because Jupiter's going to sextile your Neptune. So maybe you feel like you have time for love, you have time for dating, things stabilize a little bit, you're more open to it. Whole sign, people would say you have Venus in the 7th, so it's going to bring you more opportunities for relationships. Uranus is about to hit your sun. That's a big one, because that tells me that somehow there's lots of shifts relating to relationships and goals. You might actually find that a really prominent relationship partner comes into your life, and this will probably be when Jupiter and Venus align. Between the end of May and I would say when the North Node's on your Juno, between May and December. So there's going to be some really positive kind of turn of events happening. Sun Juno makes me feel like it could be somebody that's a really significant relationship. Lots of Stephanies and Libra risings. That's big. You know, North Node conjunct your Sun and Uranus. That's usually when people suddenly meet the person that they're going to be in a relationship with for a while, or maybe they date them for a while and realize that that's like their future husband. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's possible. You're young, but it's possible. It might just be a sudden relationship that's out of the blue, unexpected. Something else that's kind of going on also is Pluto's getting ready to cross into your 4th house. So to me, that seems to suggest there is an opportunity for like a bigger move, actually, that I think you're possibly going to be considering making 2023, maybe 2024, the end of 2023 going into 2024. Relationships will be looking good, so that's good as well. If you're somebody who's interested in astrology, just for like annual planning, if you're just starting to learn, something that I would also say is look into annual perfections, so you can actually see, you know, what house you're in for this year, and so you can make predictions. You want to use whole sign, so you have an idea what's kind of going on. Things have been, yeah, kind of wild in this chart with all of the conjunctions that you had to your South Node, and I would actually say like the more unusual and atypical living situation that you have is actually going to be better for you. I think that now that the North Node is coming into conjunction with your Mercury, you're going to study more like astrology and stuff relating to like tarot and the occult. Like that's going to be a real interest of yours here for the next year, especially with Uranus getting close to your Mercury. So I feel like you're going to be learning a lot more about astrology, to be honest with you. And the nodes are coming in to square Uranus. So it wants you, once again, to have maybe a situation where you're living with like a romantic partner. And then you're coming into Uranus square Uranus, which is this huge revolutionary change. So changes about money and resources are definitely going to be a theme here for the next 2 or 3 years. I think Uranus coming into conjunction with your Mercury is your goals are going to change quite a bit here in 2023. And maybe you're super focused on like living in communal land and like joining resources and learning about growing things. Yay, tarot. If you got Mercury in the 8th and Uranus transits that, wonderful time to be practicing tarot, wonderful time to be learning about astrology. Saturn conjunct your Uranus wants you to settle down, but do it in a way that's still giving you your freedom. So I would say like some kind of changes in your living situation. Can have issues with family members, issues with roommates, things like that. But because you have planets in so many fixed signs, you got a lot of Aquarius, you got a lot of Taurus in your chart, you know, it's just learning to flow more into your 8th house, learning more about, you moved in with your boyfriend, there you go, so you're doing it. Uranus in the 4th house is like, you know, living with people before you get married type stuff. I would just say archetypal astrology, stuff relating to metaphysics, learning more about intimacy, maybe energy, kundalini, tantra, that kind of stuff with Uranus in your 8th house. And relationships looking real good next year, girl. Hopefully that's helpful. It's so cool to see people who are like younger that are like into astrology. That's awesome. It's so helpful. People who have like the Neptune, Uranus, even Saturn and Aquarius, you guys are like my favorite people because you just get it, you know? You understand that astrology makes your life easier because you know what to plan on. Let's see. I still only have Rachel. Rachel is the only person that I have. I know Alexa's been trying to get through. Do the Kundalini. It's good for your 8th house Uranus transit. Okay, so we've got Rachel. I'm not seeing anything still coming in for Alexa, so I'm not sure. I've refreshed this a couple times. Let me put in Rachel's info and we'll do it again. 9196. And that was at 9:35 a.m. in Detroit. Lots of Michigan people here, huh? And I'd love clarity. If you can shut on my North Node in Libra in the 1st house, 7th house in Aries. How do I apply this in my life? General chart aspects. Love that. I love when people ask questions about their natal, especially when it's their nodes, because they're like, hi, how do I come into my destiny? How do I unlock my future? I love that. That represents a whole other sign of clarity. Oh, surprise, another Libra rising. Libra rising club. If you've been assaulted by the Venus retrograde, please raise your hand. Okay. Libra rising in this chart. The question was revolving around her North Node in Libra and her South Node in Aries. Just double checking, making sure this is like the correct info, because I'm just making sure it's Mercury retrograde, 1696. Okay. So, with your North Node, it's that thing that you really strive for, that you really want, and that you really want to achieve, okay? So it's kind of out of your wheelhouse. You're learning how to do that more in this lifetime. South Node is more what's comfortable, what you fall back into, what can be a pitfall, but it's also what you know how to work with, right? So if we're looking at this from Placidus, the South Node in Aries in your 6th house is you're more predisposed to having health hiccups, challenges with organization, cleanliness, staying on track, getting things done, maybe getting help or assistance, things like that. Saturn is the ruler of your 4th house. So I look at this and I go, do you wake up in the morning, put your clothes away, make your bed? Are you doing your, you know, kind of Aries self-responsibility for the home? That's a big theme, okay, off the bat. Saturn in the 6th is also putting a real emphasis on your Mars. So Saturn in the 6th can be taking care of or assisting or helping or healing something. So the dispositor actually of your Saturn is Mars, and you've got Mars and Venus conjunct in the 10th, and you're a Cancer midheaven. People don't know this. Libra risings, they come in and they have a very difficult upbringing usually because Capricorn's in their 4th house, especially if you have planets there in the 4th house. A relationship with one of the parents was kind of stressful. Maybe you had a parent that was really strict or kind of detached or cold. So you have to learn to be really personable, Libra rising. But because your midheaven is Cancer, actually you're here to be a nurturer. You're here to be a caretaker. You're here to be a parent. You're here to be a cook, a baker. You're here to run, you know, a home, be a homemaker. I mean, I know these things don't always sound glamorous, but that's what you're here to do. Especially if you have Mars and Venus, ruler of your chart, and your 7th house in your 10th house. The problem is you're getting your ass kicked every which way to Sunday right now, because you've got Pluto coming into your Neptune, which means your home life is dissolving, lots of emotions, you're dealing with all this shit from your childhood, it's got you in your feelings, your house is probably a mess, maybe you're having plumbing issues, maybe you're having issues with water, maybe there's flooding, emotionally or quite literally. You gotta watch out with Neptune in the 4th, especially if you're a Libra rising, because when you're having transits to your Neptune, if you're all in your feelings and you're not dealing with your feelings, water's gonna break, a pipe's gonna break, something in the house gets destroyed because it's literally Neptune coming in going, clean out your emotional pipes, okay? That's what happens. Yeah, so the reason why you're getting your ass kicked right now is because Pluto's conjunct your Neptune saying we need to dissolve these old emotions, these old ways of feeling like you can't have a family because people are going to abandon you. It's trying to work that out right now. And it's in harsh opposition to your chart ruler, Venus and Mars. So this is rough. Mercury's there now. Hi, I'm Mercury, and I'm saying hi, let it all go, clear all that shit out. So you can come further into your destiny because, oh, by the way, Venus rules your North Node in Libra. So you're here to find balance. Ironically, because being a Libra rising, the first 30 years of your life, you have a lot of conflict with people, Aries in the 7th, because you have to learn more about yourself. Your 7th house is your shadow self. Believe it or not, Libra risings are not all butterflies and rainbows. Libra risings are friendly. They know how to be personable, but the shadow side is Aries, which means we can also be a little rough, a little confrontational, a little aggressive. So because you have Mars and Venus in Cancer in the 10th house, it can be, let me love you, let me take care of you, let me help you, let me this. South Node's in Aries, the same sign as your 7th house, saying you can't fix other people, you don't want to fix other people. Fix you. Take care of you. Take care of your emotions, take care of your home. Detach and remove any person, family members, things that are not healthy habits that get in the way for you. This can be roommates, this can be family members, this can be just a house that's not organized and not clean, not having your own space. So Saturn conjunct the South Node as you're clearing out unhealthy habits from your childhood and also from your family. And you can't take care of people, especially a parent, especially if they have health issues, which can happen. North Node in Libra, you're here to learn more about balance, beauty. It's conjunct your ascendant, relationship with you. North Node in Libra conjunct Mercury, ruler of the 9th house, ruler of the 12th house. You're here to study ancient languages, ancient texts, arts, film, philosophy, spirituality, meditation, right? Things like that. So you have Mars and Venus in Cancer, which is an intuitive sign at the top part of your chart. So just a word to the wise from somebody who has Jupiter in the 10th in Cancer and has a bunch of planets in Capricorn in the 4th, don't fix your family. Go into a career where you can help other people. Everything kind of just starts working. It's magic. You'll see a lot of this change when Pluto gets out of this opposition with your Mars and your Venus. I wonder if it's a good idea for you to work with women, pregnant women, people trying to get pregnant, taking care of children. I wonder if it makes sense for you to partner with other people, working with them when it comes to home-related things. I see your moon's in Taurus in the 7th. You've got excellent taste. So I'm wondering, like, what do you do? Are you a home designer? Do you work with interior design? Do you work with home property, real estate? Like, what is it that you do? Because people are going to want your services. So right now this breakdown's going on where it's getting you to think about if your goal is to go more into being a mom, having a home, having a family, all of these things, what you need to do right now to cut these patterns and focus on your career so you can go in the direction of doing what you need to do. Moon in the 7th house and it rules your 10th, you're going to work with your partner. So you have to get your shit together before your partner shows up. You got to do that work and you got to clear out all the emotional stuff. And when you get on the path of your career, this person's going to show up. Probably when the North Node's hovering around your moon. Probably when Jupiter hits your moon. So yeah, you know, you still got to go through some stuff in this next year. Dating stuff can still be a little rocky. Once again, watch out for unexpected pregnancy. Saturn in the 5th, square Uranus in the 8th. You don't want the Saturn in the 5th sextiling Jupiter being like, I'm pregnant, so we're getting married. Like, don't do that. Relationship stuff's going to get a whole lot easier when the North Node's conjunct your moon. That's going to be spring of 2023. When the North Node's on your moon, you meet this guy probably through work or you start working with him. Probably he's an architect or he does something revolving around Taurus related things. He could also be a chef. He could be into eating, baking, cooking. Because you're a Libra rising and you've got Taurus on the 7th and Aries, he'll have some kind of combination of Taurus Aries probably in his chart. Tall, athletic, because it's Aries at a 9. You might have longer hair, some kind of cultural difference, whatever. But your partner's going to heal you, help heal you, and make you realize you don't have to take care of them. They'll be like, whoa, I'm good. Do you? Juno opposed Chiron. They're going to be like, I'll help you. You don't need to take care of me. And just the horoscope in general for Virgo suns are actually quite lovely right now. I think you're just clearing out a lot of stuff relating to your childhood. So lots of breakthrough happening in March. I would say, hopefully that's helpful. I know that was a lot, but man, that Neptune opposed Venus and Mars angle is a lot. I would say you really want to watch out for like men who have mommy issues or who have issues with addiction or who haven't dealt with their family issues, because you can bring some of that in with that opposition. What's up, D Cosmic? How's it going? Hopefully that was helpful for you. Sorry to rant at you, but a little too close to home with some of those aspects, a lot like my chart. I still do not have an Alexa. I'm looking. I do not see you. I'm going to go through and try to troubleshoot with PayPal. Alexa, if you have that, send me an email. I'm going to give you my email right now. You can send me an email with the screenshot of the PayPal, because I just want to see it, because it's not coming through on my end. It's just Candace at beyondtheveiltarot.com. So CANDACE at beyondtheveiltarot.com. Just send me a screenshot of the PayPal. Send it to me. Don't worry, you'll get your reading. Just make sure you put in your time, date, and your name, location of birth. I'll send you an audio recording, so you can get that. But yeah, for some reason, I'm not seeing it, and I've reloaded it several times. So I do not have a purchase from you. So I apologize. Maybe there's an error going on here. And just confirming it's under your name, right? Alexa Kovacs. Okay, so while we're troubleshooting that, a couple things. One is, hi, if you guys haven't seen my horoscopes, why haven't you seen my horoscopes? I did them, they're back. I am going to be filming my weekly video for Astro Weather, because it's the last week of January. I'm going to talk all about the astrology of February, but I will not be giving breakdowns for the zodiac signs. I'm not going to pull cards. I'm not going to talk about what's going on with the zodiac signs. I'm just going to talk about the astrology energetically as a whole. If you're like, Candace, how's it going to affect me? Go watch my February 2022, horoscopes. All the 12 signs. I do each rising sign, which I haven't done before, and I kind of go in depth into the most important transits of the month. I have a slideshow. Hope you like it. 2, there's new content coming out on my channel. If you guys haven't seen that, I'm doing educational videos, and I'm also doing astro musing. So like one day I'll be like, well, this is stuff that's kind of inspiring me, and like my hot take on inspiration from some of the transits. Then on Thursdays, I'm doing educational videos. I already put out how I read a natal chart. If you're interested in learning my method, check that out. I just talk about the first steps that I take. I'm going to do another video, and I'm going to create more educational content as well. There's also fireside chats that I'm going to start doing at the beginning of February with some of my personal astrology knit friends. So I'm very excited for that. Stay tuned. Make sure that you're clicking the bell button and you're getting alerted when these videos are coming out. Also, if you haven't seen my podcast that I do with the Peace Stealer on the Midheaven podcast, please check that out as well. I think we have a new episode coming out tomorrow, if I remember correctly. Mondays, we always have new content coming out. We also have memberships on that channel as well. So now we're getting content out on my channel like 4 days a week. And we've got 2 videos coming out usually with the Midheaven. So it's like I'm putting more and more content out. The memberships and all the support, the donations, you guys liking, commenting, sharing, you guys make it possible for me to do this. My goal is by the end of summer to be able to make a video every day. Like I want to be able to make content every day, whether it's just doing more lives or teaching and educating more. And I want to start doing lectures and other things. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I appreciate your support, your likes, your comments, your memberships, your subscriptions. You guys are the best. Thank you. I'm going to be making a video too about other books and stuff as well. Yes, this will be available post live. So as soon as this live is done, you'll be able to go and just search for it on my channel. I think you might have to scroll down a little bit, but the replay will be available as soon as I'm no longer streaming. And yeah, if you guys have any questions about particular transit content, things that you have questions about, topics that you want me to cover astrologically, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I will be back soon. And yeah, don't worry, Alexa, I will try to troubleshoot that. So once you have proof of purchase, go ahead and just send it to my email and I'll make sure I get you your reading. Otherwise, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate your support. I'll see all of you guys in the next couple days with my February address. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.